So, you've picked up Nagoriyuki. I assume you're here because this has happened to you a lot. Managing his blood gauge and applying pressure can be hard. We'll look no further because here's the Nagoriyuki combo guide for new players. Let's first talk about Numpad Notations. This is a way of explaining what I'm inputting for the combos in a way that can be understood by anyone using any type of controller. Imagine your movement keys are surrounded by numbers on a numpad. When I press right on my D-pad, this is equal to 6. And when I press down on my D-pad, this is equal to 2. Then there's the attacks, which are represented by punch, kick, slash, and heavy slash. These are in place of X, A, Y, and B on an Xbox controller, for example. So this is 5K, this is 6S, and this is 214K. Nago is a huge powerhouse of a character who's able to hit for a ton of damage. However, to compensate for this, he has to manage a blood meter, and he has very little natural mobility. I'm first going to give a rundown on how the blood gauge works and how you can stop it from overflowing. Firstly, we have to understand what causes this to increase. When using any of Nago's special moves, Zarameyuki, Kamuriyuki, Shizuriyuki, or Fukyo, this meter is increased by about 3/4 of a bar, except for Fukyo, which is a lot less. Every time you hit, you reduce the blood gauge by a small amount. Each section of this meter increases the amount of damage and range Nago's attacks have, so if your blood meter is high, you'll be hitting harder. However, using too much blood will cause Nago to do something we like to call popping. You want to prevent this as much as you can. As soon as you go into blood rage, your health drops rapidly to half of your max health. You can't use any specials, and worst of all, there's a second where you can't do anything, meaning one hit from a command grab will usually mean the end of the round. However, if you want to end the blood rage early, you can do this by using Zansetsu. This means you've got to manage the meter as well as possible. So how do we do this? Well, there are two main ways. The first is by doing damage with your blade, meaning sometimes it's best to sit back and try and poke at your opponent if your blood is too high to engage. Your Wasuriyuki also returns a large amount of blood back, so try using this to finish off high blood demanding combos. The other, and most effective, is Blood Sucking Universe. This is your command grab, and when used it drains your blood down to 0, allowing you to go for your long damaging combos as it decreases. Remember, when you get the bite, you win the fight. Next, let's talk about Rekkas. If I press S, then wait, and then press S again, I'll perform the same move. However, if I press S 3 times in quick succession, the move will change each time, allowing me to perform natural and easy pressure. This is called a Rekka and can be used to lock down your opponent and create some great mix-up potential, but more on that later. For now, get used to the timings between each attack. As stated before, Nago has very little movement, not having any forward dash or any type of air dash. The only thing he can do is backdash. This is where Fukyo comes in. This is Nago's greatest movement ability and allows him to move back and forth across the screen rapidly at the cost of increasing his blood gauge, meaning you've got to use this move sparingly and efficiently to prevent yourself from going into blood rage. To perform Fukyo, it's 236K to move forward and 214K to move backwards. Holding the K and the direction of the button you want to move in will allow you to keep performing Fukyo in that direction. You can also change the direction of the Fukyo by pressing the opposite direction button while still holding the K. This part is important. You must learn how to cancel your Fukyo to stop you from sliding too far away from your opponent. This is a normal Fukyo, and this is a cancelled Fukyo. To perform this, it's 214K, then 6 for when you're going backwards, and 236K, then 4 for when you're going forward. Get used to this on both sides, as it will be important to apply pressure later on. So how do we close the gap between us and our opponent to begin our pressure? We do it by chasing our copy. Nago can perform a Zarameyuki with a 236S, sending out a copy of himself as a projectile. He can then instantly follow after it using Fukyo by simply continuing to hold the 6 and pressing K. Because we're performing this Fukyo after the Zarameyuki, we've already put in the 236 part of the combo, so all we need to do is continue to hold the 6 and press K instead of having to input another 236. We can then follow this up with either a close S to start our pressure, or a Blood Sucking Universe using 63236P to get the command grab and drain our blood. So the whole input goes 236S, hold the 6, then press K until you're next to them, then 63236P for the command grab, or a close S to start your pressure. Practice both of these as they are one of your most important tools. The final bit of guidance before we get into the actual combos is how to convert your Kamuriyuki into your full combo. Nago can use 214H to perform Kamuriyuki, or better known as Beyblade. But where do we go from here when it's blocked? Well, the best part of this move is that it leaves you close enough to convert the end of it into a grab. You can either choose to normally grab, or better yet use your command grab to get the blood drain and really apply some damage. Another good thing about this combo is you can use your red roam and cancel to pop your opponent in the air after the grab to start your high damage combo. We'll be using this a lot for mix up options, so it's best to learn it now. Start off with 214H, Then when close enough, use either your normal grab or your command grab using 63236P. As the grab hits, red roam cancel by pressing any 3 attack buttons which will start your combo. Perfect, with the fundamentals out of the way, let's start with your main combos and pressure strings. The way I like to split these up is into 2 sections, the pressure stage and the follow-up stage. The pressure stage is where you use combos and mix-ups to try and crack your opponent's defense. Once you've successfully done this, the follow-up stage is the combo you use to bring your opponent to the wall and inflict the main proportion of your damage. This follow-up combo will slightly change depending on where you are on the screen and the last move you used, but will generally follow the same pattern. Don't worry, I'll explain this in greater detail. Let's start with the follow-up combo, as this is the foundation of our game plan and what we are ultimately trying to achieve. This is corner to corner and can be performed anywhere on the screen and uses just under 2 bars of blood. And here's what it looks like. To perform this, it's close S, 6S, 6S, 214H, 63236H, 236K, 5K, close S, 6S, 6S, 6K, 632146S for your Nagoriyuki. This is a great combo that does a lot of damage and can be used from anywhere on the screen. We use the 6K at the end to get just close enough to perform the Nagoriyuki instead of using another Fukyo which uses more blood. This is the most extreme and expensive version of the combo as it's corner to corner, so we can actually cut down on the amount of blood we use if the variables allow it. An example of this is if we're mid-screen and we confirm the first 2 hits of our Rekka. There's no need to use the Beyblade because the opponent's already cracked open and susceptible. So how do we capitalise off this efficiently? Instead of using Beyblade, we can go straight into our Nagoriyuki to lift them up, then Fukyo forward and use 3 hits of our Rekka to stick them to the wall. It's vital whilst playing Nago to look for opportunities like this to save blood so we don't pop. This whole combo goes 6S, 6S, 63236H, 236K, close S, 6S, 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 half circle forward S for Nagoriyuki. Now let's talk about the pressure stage and how we can crack our opponent's defense. When playing Nago, it's important to remember this. How do I make my opponent afraid to press a button? We want to take this mentality and apply it to our pressure stage using mix-ups and baits to achieve our follow-up combo. We can use a combination of aggressive and defensive strings to accomplish this. The aggressive strings allow you to apply a lot of pressure, whilst the defensive strings allow you to bait in your opponent into pressing a button whilst keeping you relatively safe. However, these can allow gaps in your pressure to let people jump out and start their turn. Let's start with the aggressive one. This is your spin to win string, and it will cost you about 1/4 of blood once you confirm the command grab. And this is what it looks like. To perform this, it's 6S, 6S, 214H, 63236P. This is assuming the whole string before the grab is blocked. However, if you at least confirm the hit on the Beyblade, that's even better. We can now continue to use our follow-up combo in its place, using Nagoriyuki and then bringing them to the wall with a 5K, a close S, and 3 hits of your Rekka. This whole string goes 6S, 6S, 214H, 63236H, 236K, 5K, close S, 6S, 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 half circle forward S for Nagoriyuki. If this whole string is blocked and you decide to go and grab your opponent, they'll eventually start learning this and begin to grab you at the end of your Beyblade before you have time to recover. So this is where your first defensive string comes in. This is your spin to win retreat string. This works the same way as the first string, but after your Beyblade you cancel out of it using a backwards Fukyo to leave them grasping at the air so you can punish it and go for your full combo. Remember to cancel your Fukyo's direction so you don't end up sliding too far and losing the pressure. This is a great bait as you're making it look like the previous aggressive spin to win string, but then retreating at the last second to catch your opponent off guard. This will make them second guess their response next time you engage. This string uses 3/4 of a bar of blood, and this is what it looks like. To perform this, it's 6S, 6S, 214H, 214K, 6S, 6S, 6S to start reapplying the pressure. This is your sudden grab string. This is a useful curveball that keeps your opponent on edge and gives them more variables to think about when trying to block your strings. This string doesn't use any blood, And here's what it looks like. To perform this, it's 6S, 6S, 632, 36p. This can also be performed with a normal grab, however be aware that they can also grab you out of this, which is where you can use this final defensive string to counter it. This is your sudden retreat string. This can be used in the same sort of way as the first one, where you use a Fukyo to bait your opponent in. This uses around 1/4 of a bar of blood, and this is what it looks like. To perform this, it's simply 6S, 6S, 214k, 6S, 6S. Even if they don't try and grab, you can still instantly reapply your pressure by following up with your Rekka. Remember, after any type of grab, you can red roam and cancel by pressing any 3 attack buttons to go instantly into your follow-up combo. And those are the main ways to apply pressure and bait your opponent into making mistakes. The most important thing about Nago is using a mixture of these and trying to reinforce habits into your opponent so you can then quickly change the situation and punish them for it. For an example of this, let's say I've deliberately used a sudden grab string twice in a row. What I'm doing here is telling my opponent that's how I like to apply my pressure. Then I think about how they're going to counter it. Maybe a counter grab, maybe a jump, or even a backdash. And then I apply a different string like the sudden retreat to the next engagement to capitalise on their mistake. This is the game plan you want at all times whilst playing Nago. Here's an example of where I use this in a real game to read my opponent and get a perfect round. Let's break this down. I start my pressure off with a Kamuriyuki to close the gap. I then try a normal grab to see how my opponent reacts. The grab goes through and I set up my next engagement. I then want to see if I can get away with it again, so I use 2 Rekkas and a Kamuriyuki and then grab. Luckily again this goes through. So what have I done? I've reinforced in the maze mind that I like to grab after I spin. So for the next engagement I'm going to make it look like I'm doing the same thing, but this time I'm going to use one of my defensive strings to retreat instead of grab. This works as you can see, and may try to grab based on the patterns I'd reinforced earlier. I then punish with 3 Rekkas. I'm conscious of my blood gauge being relatively high whilst my opponent's health isn't low enough to finish the round with 1 full combo, so this is why I decided to use the Rekkas here instead of spending more blood. The main note is I like to reapply my pressure by using a jump H. Again, I'm thinking, how does she think she can get out of this? I think she's going to try and jump out, so instead of jump H, this time I use jump S to catch her in the air and put her back in the corner. I've shown that I have an answer for everything she's tried so far, so I assume she's going to try something in part of the string I haven't changed yet, which was the beginning. So this time, I decided to throw in a random sudden retreat string to try and catch her off guard, and luckily she tried to press a button so she was punished. Her health is low enough to finish, so I go for my spin to win string to do as much damage and start the full combo to stick her to the wall. Luckily she sticks pretty fast, so I use my Nagoriyuki to close the round. Thanks a lot for watching. I really hope this guide gives you a starting place to playing Nago and helps you win some games. Now a word from our sponsor, myself. I sell the STL files for 3D printed Guilty Gear props I make on my Etsy store, so for the week I'm doing a 20% off sale on everything in the store. If you'd like to use as a cosplay prop or even just a collection piece, please consider buying one and using code blank20 for the discount. If you don't have a printer, don't worry, because you can always use websites like these two which will take the files, print them on their own machines and then send them to you. Thank you very much if you do get one, it helps out a lot. Also, please consider subscribing and following my Twitter if you'd like to see more stuff like this.